You lock me in your gaze, and try though I might, I cannot look away. You're not what I expected to find, and now I'm forgetting why I should run from your side. Yeah. One gentle kiss, the pain alleviates. Poisonous lips annihilate me, and every dream that I trade for this bliss. But who can resist? I'm starving alone in the wilderness. Beautiful distraction, keep me hypnotized, and I fall for the enemy. Powerless reaction, I am paralyzed, and now you get the best of me. Is there no one safe from your deceit and lies? I know I've been told this road isn't paved with gold, but I see the glitter now. I'm sold for the enemy. My hands are tied. You've captured your next slave, but it feels justified. I don't even try to break free, and now I'm blind to the truth at my side. That we win before we begin if we stand and fight. This beautiful distraction, keep me hypnotized, and I fall for the enemy. Powerless reaction, I am paralyzed, and now you get the best of me. Is there no one safe from your deceit and lies? I know I've been told this road isn't paved with gold, but I see it glitter now. I'm sold for this. Ooh, we're going down. We're going down. Yeah, we're going down. We're going down. We're going down. We're going down. Na, 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 na. We're
Hey,
going
Chris, good to
down.
see you.
We're going down. Beautiful distraction, keep me hypnotized, and I fall for the enemy. Powerless reaction, I am paralyzed, and now you get the best of me. Is there no one safe from your deceit and lies? I know I'm told this road isn't paved.
I appreciate that. I hope you're having a good Thanksgiving. Hey, Kurt. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm just in the middle of, trying to do some little self-promotion by actually posting to other Discords, and one of these days I will figure out that I should do this like before my stream. All right. Well, no, listen, enjoy your evening. Have a great time. Hope you're having a good time at your parents' with family and everything, and all good things. All good things, my friend. Thank you for stopping in. Thank you for saying hello. I really appreciate it. Hoo-ah. All right. Where are we? I don't know. That's right. We're here on Twitch. And hi, everyone. I am Phantom NJ, otherwise known as Rob. Probably should be doing that backwards, but, it's such an interesting thing being in a space where my real name is known almost as well as my username is. I'm not kind of used to that. I'm very used to being in spaces where my username is the only thing that they know. I've been in many places where to this day people call me by my username even after they know my real name, which is, it's a little odd, but what are you going to do? Hey, History Prof. I have zero plans for today. I did not do anything today. I did a lot of relaxation today, honestly. Good to see you. First of all, happy Thanksgiving. And so my dog hasn't been feeling all that well. He's been having some issues, and going to be taking him to the vet tomorrow. Hey, Greg, good to see you. Good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. So I actually had the opportunity to go to family somewhat locally, and I'm like, it's one of those things where the issue that he's having is kind of a digestive thing, and I was like, I probably should stay close by just in case. And he's been good for most of the day, though we were out several times this morning. Since then, he's been fine. We'll go, like I said, we'll go back to the vet tomorrow. He's probably going to need an ultrasound at this point because we've been trying to figure out what's wrong with him for weeks. And it's weird because he acts perfectly fine. It's just, tummy troubles are weird. So there's that. And I was like, I'll just stay home and relax and, watch some football, watch the end of the Packers Lions game, watch most of the first half of the Cowboys Chiefs game. I not the biggest, at these days I'm not the biggest NFL fan as far as like neutral games that I have no rooting interest in. It's kind of like maybe the Super Bowl I might get excited for, but that's about it. Otherwise, really, you just don't care all that much. But it was something to have on in the background. I am very, very, very much a English Premier League fan. I have been for coming up on 30 years now since they started showing it in the States, and I chose my favorite team, and my favorite club is freaking amazing this year. So, hey Jay, good to see you. Yep. I'm home for Thanksgiving, so I was like, I might as well stream. What the hell? It's like something past the time. Well, yeah, I mean, you've got you got family to deal with. It's like yeah. we would very, very, very much like your wife not to murder you in your sleep. It's like streaming on Thanksgiving. That would be, oh man. Oh boy, yeah, no. I listen. I get that. So yeah, no. It was basically just watching some football, relaxing with my dog, and taking it easy. I do have to work tomorrow, which also made the call easier. It's like dealing with work tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of people out, so we're going to be kind of short-staffed, and I don't know if there's going to be enough coffee in the world to deal with that. So yeah, I was like, I'll just relax. It's fine. I mean, hopefully there will be also a lot of people out elsewhere, so that there won't be much cause for concern tomorrow. Kalahari Resorts and Water Park, nice. Oh man. It's really, I really have Gary. I can tell I have Gary Con on the brain. I finally did submit my events for Gary Con today. Nothing like waiting for 3 days or so before the deadline to submit one's events. But I finally got with the program and submitted my events today. And actually, I think if you look in the general chat of my Discord, I posted what those events are again. I'm shooting for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at 9 a.m. Most likely in Evergreen 3, which is where Trollord Games usually has pretty much the entire room to themselves. Thanksgiving buffet, too. But I was maybe mention, I had Gary Con on the brain because every time I hear water park, I don't know why this is, and maybe it's because it's the last time I've seen a water park in person. I keep coming back to the water park at the Timber Lodge at we call it Hey, Touch of Evil, good to see you. The water park at the Timber Lodge at GaryCon. It's one of the one of the on-site hotels, and there's a water park. Not the biggest one I've ever seen, but it's large enough. It's large enough. So yeah, that's GaryCon on the brain. Actually, gaming on the brain is more like it these days. Poof. Yeah, it's weird. I don't have. I did decide that could have run Friday Night Crusades tomorrow night. Decided not to. Decided we are amazingly enough. It feels like the new Friday Night Crusades. It feels like we just restarted. There's been 26 sessions already. So that is, on a weekly basis, that's a half year's worth of games. If you had told me that we've been playing for 6 months already since I restarted it, I would have told you were nuts. I would have said, 3-4 months maybe, but half a year plus. I don't think I think it's basically been a straight 6 months. I don't know that we've oh, nice. Pirate Borg. Okay. Cool. That's excellent. I have not yet, amazingly enough, somehow I have not gotten to play any of the Mork Borg games, either Mork Borg itself or any of the variants of it. I don't know how that's happened, but it's on my list of ones that I have to play. I get the feeling I'm gonna have to like buy it and run it so I get to play, because there also hasn't been many people, very few people I know have been running it. There's been a couple, but it's, ooh, I think maybe Kurt has been running it. I don't remember if he ran it on Darling Creepshow's channel or if they ran it for Folk and Myth. I think that might be the only other place that I've seen it run. So Pirate Borg sounds like a lot of fun. There's also another variant called Ragnaborg that I'd like to pick up because, Mork Borg with a Viking influence. Yes, please. But that's cool. I guess they have like, I don't know how many rooms they have for playing at the Timber Lodge. Yeah, Prof, the thing is for GaryCon for me, I run my 3 sessions of CNC in the morning, and I don't play a lot of scheduled games. Last year was a little different because last year I was able to. There were some very specific games that I wanted to play last year. Like last year, I got to play my first time playing Vampire the Masquerade. Got to play that. Oh my God, his name is going to escape me, and that's going to drive me nuts. Well, I got to play Vampire the Masquerade, and it was fantastic. It was everything that you could, everything I could have wanted in a session. The other game I actually played in was Newarvarden by Dungeon Mr. Ty, and I have a special affiliation, what do you call it? A special feeling for that game, mostly because I was one of the early playtesters for the game. I actually have a playtesting credit in the released book, and it was my first time getting to meet Ty in person. So that's cool. Yeah, getting to play something for the first time is really cool. But yeah, so I mean, there was that. After that, I honestly just wanted to hang out with people, and I kind of, I did. Oh, the other one I played in, I got to play in was Tower of God. I did play Tower of Gygax. I do like doing the Tower of Gygax. This time I only played one session that I remember, and that was kind of special because Kelsey Dion, she of Shadow Dark fame, was the was the DM for that, and I managed to get my my Shadow Dark book signed by them. That was that was really cool. And Kelsey is a lot of fun. Very enthusiastic DM. Really just really all around good person. It's the kind of person that you really root for because despite the success, has not has not outwardly changed. And I mean, Shadow Dark kind of took Gary Con by storm last year. It was, well, when I say last year, I'm not talking this. This one just passed. I'm talking the year before. But yeah, it was. Kelsey was a rock star. It was the kind of thing where they sold out of the Shadow Dark books. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So getting to play in that game. I mean, I remember I remember talking to Kelsey outside the Evergreen rooms when I think the Kickstarter had just like started, and I didn't get in on a Kickstarter. I fully admit I waited until after it was released and whatever. But Kelsey was basically just sitting out Evergreen with the starter, the starter kit for Shadow Dark, which I still have. I had to convince myself that that was who I actually talked to, and yeah, I know I have the small starter kit. Hey Asher, good to see you. I hope you're having a great Thanksgiving. So it was one of those things where the next year they sold out really early of all their Shadow Dark materials, and Kelsey was really signing like every single copy. I don't think there was a person in GaryCon, anyone who was aware of their presence who had bought the book there didn't get it signed because they're getting pretty mobbed wherever they were going. But still, even with all that, was a hell of a lot of fun. Very very personable, and it was great fun. I have not yet gotten to try Traveler, either the old or the new version. So I'm looking forward to eventually playing that some. But yeah, no, it's Asher, I was telling them that I didn't. Well, actually, I think you saw. I've got my game submitted for GaryCon, and I just need somebody to approve them. And I did remember to put in descriptions this time. I think that was the hardest part, and what got me was the fact that I needed to describe the session because they don't let you just put in the title and the other information. You need a description. Yeah, the quicks. The quick start. They were. That's where I met her. She was handing out that quick start, and it was and she would talk to you for as long as you wanted to with regards to the game. So I mean, she put in the work and got the word of mouth out, and it was the success that the game has speaks for itself. It's a lot of fun. It is one of those games, for all the talk about like West Marches style games. If there was ever a game that really was made for a West Marches style game, Shadow Dark is probably it, because by design the adventures are all self-contained, one shots. Get in, get out, and get back to safety in time. So it makes for that kind of game. As a campaign, it would probably take some tuning because the Shadow Dark, it is true regarding having another D&D clone. It's like, how many of those do you need? But yeah, no, it has a different. I mean, the fact that it has that differentiation to it, that the Shadow Dark mechanic itself does add something to it. Hey, Doc Shoulder, good to see you, Rob. Hope you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving. roll to cast is very cool. It's got some mechanics that set it apart, so it's not like the same thing. Um, and I for another game of that where the mechanics are even more different is like if you want a D&D style game, feel but not D&D rules. I say Dragonbane is the other one to go to because it is very different. Listen. Yeah, I mean, it is. I believe it, Doc. I believe it. Um, you know, Interestingly enough, there is another game out there by an author we know that has that kind of casting mechanic, and that would be basically any of the Elflare games by Jason Vey. I forget how DCC. I've only played one DCC game, and I did not play a caster. So yeah, and yeah, one of these days I need to get around to actually reading Wasted Lands, because Wasted Lands would be the very much the swords and sorcery type thing. Um, I mean, you've got because he's got three different types of games that are all extremely different genres. I mean, you've got oh, was it Night Shift, Veterans of the Supernatural War, which is the teen late the young adult or the teen uh, such television show tropes, witches, vampire hunters, monster hunters, etc. And the character classes are all very much tropes, and really just kind of like built off of the different things that you've seen. Um, he's got Wasted Lands, which is set way back, like in not even ancient times, pre-ancient times, almost like pre-human times, where the gods as we know them you know don't really even exist yet. You're kind of playing the heroes that would eventually ascend or become known as gods, where legends are actually made. Ooh, that's yeah. That's brutal, Doc. And then he's got 13 parsecs, which is again the same kind of like the same rule set, but it's in space. So all the games, the rule set is interchangeable. Um, all granted, against you have sci-fi, you have very swords and sorcery type, and then you have modern monster hunters type stuff. Keep coming back for more. Yeah. Dave has kind of a Stockholm syndrome on hold on some of his players. I think they like I'm pretty sure you guys like the abuse that he gives you. I got to play Shadow Dark with Dave. I That's cool, Asher. I got to play Shadow Dark with Dave at GaryCon, not this past one, the year before, and it was I think it was my first experience playing Shadow Dark, and it was a lot of fun. I think there was 6 or 8 of us sitting around the table, and we were the evil that we were searching for. We didn't know it, but we were all like werewolves and stuff. We were all infected lycanthropes, and the game ended with half of us dead, half of us gone full monster, and killing each other and killing whoever, and we had a lot of fun with that. Of course, then Dave has also done oh god, was it Viking Death Squad? And then Mothership, the Mothership adventure, where he basically says, "Listen, you're going to die. Just make it epic." You have zero hope. You really have probably zero hope of surviving this adventure. So just have fun with it. Oh man, divine intervention. Uh, oh man, the funny thing is when I think about divine intervention, I keep thinking about the World of Warcraft paladin ability, where basically they sacrifice themselves to bubble somebody. Way to save at least one repair bill, and there's sometimes where it's useful as a mechanic to beat a boss. But yeah, it's there's been Dave, like I said, Dave's a lot of fun. So all right, so let's do this. Let's get well. First of all, we do have a giveaway going on. Troller Games $10 digital coupon towards any digital product off of what do you call it, the Troller web game site, and we can give TLG a shout out. So yeah, again, it is Thanksgiving, and like I said, I've been home. Dealing with dog issues. He's fine. He's sleeping in the car at the moment. Brad, are you feeling a little guilty for winning the last 2 weeks in a row? I had to go back and figure out exactly how many weeks in a row that you had won. And like, oh, it's just the last two. Okay, all right, you're on a little streak there. But that's fine. That's fine. So let's go with the whole giving thanks thing. Let's do this. We're gonna start, and I can't say that this is going to be a comprehensive list, but we'll start with Guild Superior. Since mostly because I had been talking about him already. Dave is one of the really good people in the community. I am very thankful for him and the entire Guild Superior community. Dave's one of the people who does check in on me from time to time, make sure that I'm doing well, make sure that I'm feeling included and stuff. And the funny thing is, we have a hard time finding times that work. So it's like we've had a few, have to even. It's amazing. Even the Shadow Dark one shots. The basically the West Marches type thing. I have not been able to get. I created the character probably right when they first announced it, and my half orc warrior Grieg still has not gotten into a game because I have not been able to find a time that works, and so it's been a weird thing. But that's fine. I mean, we have fun. I enjoy talking to Dave. Getting to see him at GaryCon most years is always a good time. And I'm thankful that he asked me to be part of the Feed America what we call it, fundraiser that we just finished. The fundraiser, in case you're wondering, started, and I told them at the time, I was like, listen, I'm only doing Thursday streams at the moment. They're about an hour. I don't have any games scheduled until December. So he's like, do what you can, and just go with it. And the fundraiser raised, we had a modest goal of $1,000. We hit that before the first week was out. I think like in the first 4 days we'd hit the $1,000, or we were over the 1,000. And then he had asked about whether we should raise, and it's like, yeah, go ahead. Why not? We got a couple of weeks to go, and let's give some incentives. So we raised it to 2,000. Made it to 2,000, and I think we ended up with something like 2,250 or 2,350 or something like that. But it was, the fundraiser, thanks to, Dave over at Guild Superior, the people at Folk and Myth, Stronghold D&D, I think was a part of it, Disorderly Dice, and I'm probably forgetting somebody, and I apologize to whoever it was. But also to the providers of the giveaway, Adventure Slang. I mentioned Dungeon Mr. Ty had, put in a hard copy of the New of Arden game, the new TTRPG, which is fantastic, by the way. I highly recommend getting it from, getting it from Drive Through RPG if you can. Then there's the makers. I believe the makers of Pirate Borg also put in, one up for as far as the raffle goes. And then Troller Games with Troller Games put up a copy of the CNC Player's Handbook. And the winners were announced. The raffle were announced this past Monday. And I believe that was been announced in the Guild Superior Discord. So congrats to them. Thankful for Dave. I am obviously, and I put up before, but I'll do it again. I am extremely thankful for Jay, Lord Gazumba. It's a really cool getting into joining a community with someone at the top who understands, what it means to like bring people on board and try to make everybody feel a part of it. And, honestly, as long, everyone, if you're a streamer, the fact that I have a following at all is kind of weird to me. But it's due in large part to the fact that, Jay's assistance becoming a Twitch affiliate was, pretty much a fait accompli. When you get rated with 89 people, it becomes really, really easy to, hit that first average that you need for becoming an affiliate. But let's go beyond that. I mean, because that's really, honestly, it's superficial stuff. But getting the chance to play in the games, play BattleTech, play some old school AD&D, which I have. I didn't get to play much AD&D. Back in school, one of my friends and I did switch on and off a bit, but for most of my AD&D years, and there were a lot of them, I was the DM, because if I wasn't the DM, there wasn't a game. And so, getting to play in a game and getting into play in a game where there's so much cool stuff going on, the Build Master Crafter's terrain is ridiculously good. It's just, and, playing in a style of game where you get to do a little role playing, but you also get to do just, having fun with your character and doing all the good stuff, and having more than one character is really cool. I've got 3 characters, and they are all very different. So each session is kind of special in its own way. And now that I've started keeping track, I mean, Jay, listen, you've been huge. It was the big part of my existence during COVID, when I was sitting here on my own. I had nothing else. There was nothing going on, and I come to realize that, like, all the streaming communities almost really all the streaming communities that I'm in any real meaningful way, you know, kind of came through you. So even if some of the followers were not necessarily people in the Greyhawk community, they were there because the streamer community that they were part of, originally I met through you. So and it's a really cool thing that I can log on a Thursday. And today, I mean, actually, I threw some stuff up, but it's really cool that I can log in on a Thursday randomly, just throw a stream up, and people are going to show up. And I'm not going to sell myself short. I mean, I will say that I didn't take it for granted. I went through and made sure that I was active in active in other people's communities and make sure that, I paid it forward, because that's what it's about. But I mean, I've been in enough communities where you can tell the ones where people are not doing these things because for all the followers that they have, they might be doing something and their chat is nothing. There's nothing going on. So, you showed, week in, week out, you showed, what it means in terms of building this kind of community and how important it is to be present and, talk to people. And I'm not going to use the word network because I hate the term networking in terms of the TTRPG community. Because we're not here for the business part of it. We're here for the gaming and being able to play in each other's games and make those kind of real connections, not the what can you do for me type things. And we've all known those type of people. We've seen before the people who are only here for as long as you can do something for me. Sadly, I've known entirely too many, despite the fact that I've only been in the streaming community for a few years now, 4 or 5 years, I guess, 5 years. So yeah, so the Greyhawk community is a fantastic thing. I'm still, and I know I sound like a broken record. No, we don't need to go there. Oh man, yeah. Things. Let's talk about things I'm not thankful for, but there's that. Brad, I am going to touch on that in a minute. I promise you. But I appreciate the kind words. I know I've talked about it often, and I'm going to keep talking about it until I'm blue in the face. But it is so weird and such a wild thing going to GaryCon and being at a major convention and the amount of people I know and not being able to go 20 steps without somebody either calling my name or running into somebody I know because they're everywhere. And people know me, but I've had people introduce themselves to me, and say they've watched the stream, and I honestly didn't know who they were until they finally told me, and it's a wild and wonderful thing. It makes GaryCon, GaryCon is that thing that I look forward to each year because the fact that the connections are there, the connections are real, and that we can spend 3 or 4, however many days in each other's presence, enjoying gaming, enjoying drinks, just hanging out, talking D&D, talking life, whatever the case may be, and just get away from everything else and shut out everything else for a few days. It's an amazing feeling. So let's talk about my Friday Night Crusades crew because. Friday Night Crusades, it's one of those things. It's wild to me. One of the things that I know I've mentioned in the past is Friday Night Crusades has probably been the single best thing for my imposter syndrome ever. This is the second incarnation of it that I'm running. It's technically probably probably sort of the third, or at least the third campaign, because when Siglin took Jeff took up the mantle for a while, it was pretty much the same group of people, but just kind of running new stuff. Having people show up week after week when they're literally under zero obligation to, they're under no obligation to be there on time. They're under no obligation to, stay the entire session. But I can count, most weeks, there's going to be at least five, usually most weeks there's going to be at least five, usually somewhere between 4 and 6, usually 5 at the minimum, who are going to be there from beginning to end. And it's wild to me. The fact that, we've had, in the second, edition of it, we haven't quite hit the numbers that we did previously, but that's fine. The first edition of Friday Night Crusades got a little out of hand there at the end. We were up against it where we were having 10, 11, 12 people show up, and it was awesome to see, but it could be a little unwieldy. But having those people show up, and this is a game, when I initially thought up of Friday Night Crusades, it was supposed to be kind of a Friday night for shits and giggles. Let's roll some dice, kill some monsters, grab some loot, and just play some Castles and Crusades because it's really easy. And Trollord was giving away the player's handbook in digital format, so there was zero barrier to entry. I appreciate the support that I've had from TLGU from over the years, and I'll give them another shout out. They've done special stuff for our anniversaries for Friday Night Crusades. But yeah, it's always been so much more. There's been more role playing than I ever thought there would be. There's been this particular group. We've had legit world building. In this particular one, where they're not there to just more crazy half orcs. The party has made a conscious decision that there's a town, and they or the bare bones of a town, and they want to build it up and make it into something, and they're there for that and all the stuff that goes with it. They're there for the story. They forced me to pay more attention to when I say where something is, because they want to know how far it was and how long it takes to get back to them, which is a little easier when you're streaming and I can go back and refer to the stream. This, I was not prepared for the number of times that they'd want to return to certain places. So yeah, I need to, start mapping that out a bit and having a better idea of where everything sits, because listen, it's been a very party driven campaign, which is cool. I'm there for it. And the fact that, like I said, they keep showing up. There are times where I feel like I'm, literally playing by the seat of my pants. Have my make stuff up on the fly, just kind of the ultra sandbox where I've got sand in every orifice at this point. Just trying to figure stuff out and stay one step ahead of the thing, anticipating what they might want to do next. So I am super, super thankful for all of you that play in that game. I don't care if you're one of the people who've been there for every session, whether you've been able to play in half the session, a quarter of the sessions. We've got Lee, who plays while waiting at the bus stop and for like the last 45 minutes to an hour, coming home from a shift at work, playing from the bus stop, from the bus, on the walk home, and then possibly for a few minutes from their house. It's like, what? That's it's wild. We've had a good laugh at times because Lee's had a bus driver more than once ask them to be quiet, but you can hear the bus going as the game's going on. So it's all kinds of fun, and I mean that's a feel good thing. I don't know if Lee truly appreciates how much I appreciate that they're there and that they go through all that just to be a part of the game for a little while. So, if someone sees Lee before I do, pass that message on. So yeah, I mean, Friday Night Crusades, it's been fantastic. I am really thankful for Trollard Games for the support that they've given me, for sponsoring this channel, for the giveaways, for making sure that I have more giveaways during when we're doing our, when we're doing stuff like the virtual Greyhawk Con or one of the fundraising events or whatever the case may be. I'm thankful that they put up with my nonsense when I'm complaining about things because I can't. I can't say I've agreed with everything that has happened, and I haven't been quiet about it. But at the same time, they've taken that feedback, and it's I do really truly appreciate that, and as much as there are times when I really do kind of sort of want to go back to 2E. The fact that CNC, first of all, the fact that I've had this support, the fact that CNC is so easy to teach people, and the fact that I can port all the stuff that I want over, gives me really good reason to continue. So let's see. What else am I thankful for? The Greyhawk community at large. I mean, there are people over the years who've gotten on my nerves a little bit, and but for the most part, it truly has been a fantastic community. The people that I've known, the people that I've come to know. It's been awesome. Talking Greyhawk, it's kind of a weird thing because I was never one of, as much as I've enjoyed like the lore and occasionally doing deep dives, I will never consider myself a Greyhawk expert. I know enough of the surface stuff. I know, the stuff that I've run, I know well, but, the deep dives that people do on certain things is just, it's not me. As much as I would love it at times. And so I'm continually blown away by, some of the fan stuff that comes out, by some of the the histories that people have written, with the realization that they're just writing stuff because there is no, as far as I know, a lot of the stuff, there is no documented sources. It's not like there was ever a complete book of Greyhawk history and lore. So it's kind of like they've expanded on the things that are there, and use what you like. But some of it is just truly fantastic. You would never know. You would never know that it is fan created content. And I leave it to those who are into doing that kind of thing, because first of all, they do it so well, that that's great. I can't say that I've ever had that kind of urge to go in and, you know, completely flesh out a piece of history and, you know, write up all what I think the details would be and all that. I'm content to enjoy everybody else's stuff. You know, we've got some tremendous fan created content. I have to laugh. You know, Jay likes to joke about the fact that, you know, he just ignores the right side of the map and leaves it to, you know, leaves it to us. And my campaign is currently set in the Embers of Empire campaign is set in the Kingdom of Nairon, which I've done a fair share of looking into the history. I haven't really gotten into deep dives because I'm more concerned with what's happened in like the last 30 years or so, maybe, as opposed to the truly historical stuff. Because of the fact that, well, maybe 40 years or so, because I did jump, you know, 25 years past the last published content date, such as it were. But you know, you've got Von Woku, Michael Mossberger, I think is his last name. When I realized that he was really recent to the you know, to the whole Greyhawk community thing to start with, and comparatively speaking, it kind of blew my mind. Mostly because of the fact that I do pay attention to a lot of the stuff that he's done. I was like, this is wild. There's a lot of stuff here, and yeah, I get to use it. I am, you know, very thankful that we have somebody like Anna creating the maps, and her maps I think was one of the first things. I don't remember if I saw Anna's map because of Jay's stream or if I ran across the map ahead of time. I want to say it was probably one of Jay's Legends and Lores that I first became aware of Anna's maps, but that sucked me in. I mean, and I've had the City of Greyhawk box set, and I've had the World of Greyhawk box set going back, you know, I've had it since it came out. Hey, Savage Splendor, it is good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. But, you know, Anna's new, you know, redone maps really brought me back, and it reinvigorated my love of Greyhawk. It's been my favorite setting since my 1E days. You know, I started playing with 1E in 1980 or so, started DMing probably in 82. As a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, or whatever, around that time. And, you know, I remember remember when I bought my, gold box. I remember when I bought the City of Greyhawk box set, way back then during 2E days, and having all, you know, the Rogues Gallery, and, you know, even though I, you know, later learned that those were never the real stat blocks, still it was look at all these characters and realizing that all these characters with all these spells that were in the player's handbook of, you know, first edition player's handbook, they're all they were all in one setting, and I'm like, I need to play there, you know. And it's really funny because for all that, I never, you know, it was more the fact that there was a setting that all these fantastic heroes were in, and I never used any of them. You know, I've never had, I've used, the, like the, you know, quote unquote Circle of Eight more as NPCs in my 5e campaign during COVID than I ever did back in the 1E 2E days. But they were there. It was a world in which they existed. So it was a world, for me, it was a world of possibilities, which was awesome. And they were also something that you could compare your characters to. As your characters progress, especially if you had a mage, if you managed to, you had a magic user who survived like the first 5, 6 levels, and then you started, gaining some power, and we all went through our, as Jay, points out, I think we all went through our Monty Hall phase, and I was no different. There was a time where it was my brother and I, and we would sometimes just have our characters fight stuff and give them XP, and with no real story or nothing, just to have some fun. But yeah, they became powerful, and you started measuring their power against some of these fantastic wizards and other types of heroes, or sometimes in some cases anti-heroes. So, Anna's Maps brought that feeling back, and I am so looking forward. Mayuso has been kind enough to give me some hints on how to edit the maps, and I've been able to add some stuff. I've come to the realization that I need to add a lot more stuff to the Nairon map. I need the Nairon map to feel more active. Active isn't quite the right word, and lived in maybe not even quite the. It needs to feel more populated. There's, there. All right, Jay. Thanks for dropping in. I really appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you've done, and can't wait for the next session. What do we call it? And you've got you're running a game on. There are games on Saturday, right? When you say you're wondering if we need a new map, doubleheader, okay, all right. I'm not. Saturday morning, I might sleep in. So, how much of Tim's game I'll catch, we'll see. I'll probably be online, probably late in Tim's game, and right, that's an evening game for Edgar. Okay, all right, yeah, I should be on for a good portion of that. When the scale of the map. Well, you know what I need, and this is something that I wouldn't be doing in GIS. I need what I need to do though for what I need to do for the Anna map, and really, just the Nairon map in general, is I need to add more settlements. There is entirely too much space in Nairon where there's nothing. You've got the roads, and there's nothing going on. And it's, and I think it's caused me problems as a DM, because I've had my player, the campaign be like all over the Nairon map, which honestly is really just not realistic. But this is where the things are, so this is where I've had to bring them, and I need to change that. I need to have more stuff, and again, it's going to be stuff that is not canon, and I hate the word canon, but it's not going to be published material, published source stuff. See, but there is. I'm not even sure I want to bring it up. There are people who are just that. It's ridiculous. I'm sorry if you are so beholden to something that was created 40 years ago, 45 years ago now, I guess it is. Yeah, about 4. When did the Greyhawk Folio come out? The Greyhawk Folio, something I didn't realize existed until I joined the Greyhawk community, because I had never seen the folio in any way, shape, or form. So the fact that there was a softcover folio that was a precursor to the gold box set was freaking news to me. I thought they were just talking about one of the books within the box set. This is what happens when your first. Yeah, this is what happens when your first TTRPG store is really sells TTRPGs is kind of a one-off type thing where they're more a model, a train, model planes and cars store that just happened to have a rack where they sold D&D stuff. Yeah, I was pretty ignorant of the various versions of basic D&D as it was. It was Lee what? Asher, when you said it was Lee, what were you referring to? Oh. Okay, gotcha. You know something. I admit that I don't know that I realized that I don't know that I knew that Savage Splendor's name was Lee. And that might be my bad, but you know I'm terrible with names and faces until I really get to know you. That's exactly why I did not know that Savage Splendor's name was Lee, because it isn't. That's awesome. Feeling much better now. Oopsie. Oh, yeah. So your parent, yeah. Hey, listen. I mean, John is basic. Again, it's weird me being at GaryCon and hearing people call out the name Rob, and realizing that they are actually trying to get my attention. It's not like Rob is is an uncommon name by any stretch of the imagination. Savage Baron. Okay. All right. I'll buy that. What were we talking about? But yeah, no, my first store was a hobby shop that I literally had to walk uphill both ways. It was about a mile from my house, and the brutal thing was the hill coming back was massive. It was a long, winding climb up a main road. And especially since we'd be doing this, hey, and it is what do you call it? Ad break time. So I will pause for a moment or two until the ad break is done. La di da. I am glad that I got the Siri bot to tell me when the ad breaks start and finish. All right, excellent. Ad break is finishing. We can go back to the story. But yeah, no, the hill coming back was this long, brutal climb. And since the walks to the hobby shop were usually during the summertime, we'd get to the top of the hill, and the first thing we were looking for, and we were praying that we remembered to save like a couple dollars in our pockets, so that we could hit a store to go and get a soda or something to drink, because we'd be dying of thirst. It was a long, brutal climb, but again, there were hills both ways. We'd go down the hill, we'd have to go back up a hill and then down a hill again. And they were steep hills. Hey, Pat, I'm not, I don't have a particular ending time in mind. So, did they win? They were winning last I checked, but well, and the funny thing is, Asher, the change, and this is probably the most Gen X thing ever. The change was when we found out that there was a hobby store at one of the local malls. And when I say local, it was still 25 miles away. But there was a mall, but there was a bus that went right from our town right to the mall. So at like, high school, high school freshmen, I would get on a bus, 13 years old, go to the mall, go to the hobby store, which was in the basement of the mall. And the hobby shop itself was awesome. It was small, it was compact, but it had, it was a legit hobby shop. And when I say a hobby shop, it was a legit TTRPG shop. Everything was TTRPG related. Magic the Gathering was still a few years away, and I don't remember I don't even remember like Pokemon or any of those other card games being there yet in those days. So it was like full of TTRPG stuff. It was a little cramped. It didn't have the biggest space, but it was in a basement area of the mall that was sketchy as freaking hell. All those stories that you hear about places that don't make you feel safe. If we had any good sense, we would never have gone down in that area because the lighting. There'd be like there was the TTRPG store, there was a little comic store, and then there was like a bunch of like jewelry places, but it was in this little niche section of the basement of the mall. It was the only part of the mall that basement that was open. I think there was also like a conference room area that you could get to, but that was beyond these faux walls that were up. The lighting was dim. It looked like something out of a kidnapping movie. It's like, and this is how we all disappeared. Eventually they moved out of there. Well, eventually they moved out and upstairs, and then they moved to their own place. When they I guess they finally closed like the basement section because both the comic shop and the TTRPG store moved upstairs. The shop was called Game Masters. I had to think about that for a second because it's been so long that it came to mind, but it was called Game Masters. So yeah, it was very TTRPG based. They eventually did move out of the mall to their own space. Their own shop, one town over, off one of the main roads. Then that's about the time where they added, trading card games and stuff to it, and it got overrun a little bit by it. Again, the TTRPG store itself wasn't sketchy. That section of the mall was sketchy. Like. Thankfully the TTRPG place was like one of the first shops you ran into, because if you walked any further into that place, it felt like a place where an abduction might take place. And I wouldn't trust there to be any cameras in that area. It's the kind of place where you expect any cameras that were focused on the area to like be fizzing in and out. Oh, when we were teenagers. Yeah, no, by the time I got to college, by the time I got to college, like CompuServe and Prodigy and I think AOL came a little later, but the dial-up services had started. I became, started joining bulletin board services, BBS. Part of the BBS community. Back in the day where you had your local exchanges and anything that was not in your local exchange, you had to find numbers in your local exchange because anything else would cost you money. Wow. CompuServe in 1993. Wow. 1993, I had I had left Stevens by that point. I had gone to Bergen Community College, took 11 credits, aced them all, aced the three or four courses that I took. And then I was working at a movie theater and Radio Shack. Because I had run out of money for school and never looked back. I was been working, basically working full time ever since. Yeah, so I've worked in a lot of different places over the years. Oh, that's very cool. Nice. Uh, oh yeah, no, listen. It's like, do not recite the deep magic to me. I was there when it was created. My listen. My first internet service was through BBS. We had the initial and the BBS that the main BBS that I was on was it was really chat driven. It was made for people to like play games together online. We had chat rooms. We had private chats that you could do. And it was run by a guy who was the president of a local bank, and this is a guy who was like, I want to say he was in his, it's really weird because I think about it now and I'm not entirely sure how old he was. He seemed pretty old. Like he, for all I know, he could have been in his mid to late 50s. I still think he was like in his early 60s or so. But he had heard about these bulletin board systems and dial-up systems, and apparently he had asked someone to put one, to set one up, running out of his house. And the man used to throw a barbecue for the users every year at his house. And 50 to 60 people would show up in his backyard for this. Everyone knew it was one of those things where, you could not, if you decided that you're going to be an ass in that community, you're going to find yourself a pariah really quick, or you were going to get your ass kicked because, everyone knew who everyone else was by, at some point, if you were any type of regular user, because you showed up at the yearly gathering. He also did a gathering around Christmas time the one year, again, hosted at his house for all these people that all he knew was they were members of the BBS. We weren't paying anything. It wasn't a paid service for this one. It was my first admin job in terms of computers. I was a sysop for a number of years. We used to go bowling. Every Tuesday night we would go to a bowling alley in the local area, and we do bowling, and they did karaoke there, and so we saw each other regularly. We knew each other. One of my first back then it seemed like long term, but it still was, I met one of my girlfriends there. I met more than one. Well, no, I met one of my girlfriends there. Two of them. But, I met probably my first serious girlfriend there of any type. One of my D&D campaigns was made up of, people from, especially after leaving school. My first D&D campaign after leaving college, was made up of a couple of my fraternity brothers, because, the ones who played were all from New Jersey, or were all living in New Jersey still. And my girlfriend, the wife of one of my friends, from the and she was online. It was funny. I met her, then became really good friends with her husband, and then she had heard about D&D and wanted to play. And then another woman that we knew there. So, I had a campaign where it was 3 men, 3 women for the vast majority of it. And it was, and we all got to know each other pretty well. And there were some really wild games. It made for some, amazing sessions. And, I enjoyed it for as long, as long as I could. But yeah, we were playing that on a basically on a weekly basis. But yeah, it was cool, and I mean I miss those days. I miss the local aspect of it but eventually, he sold the BBS to another guy who was also local, who was the guy's parents owned a local diner, and he tried to make it an internet cafe and kind of succeeded, where you had there were systems at, I don't remember how it worked. I think there were just like computers at the various tables, and you could putz around on the internet for a bit while you were eating your food. I really don't remember how that worked. But yeah, we did that for a while, but that's where it was through that BBS that I ended up getting my first internet account. I've had the Phantom alias for it was not my first online alias. I changed my name. I think just I created the one, and then I kept with it for like feels like maybe a month or two, and then I changed it over to Phantom, and I've had that some variation on it ever since. Yeah, I don't know how long the whole internet cafe thing went for him. I kind of lost track. At some point, he wanted to make the thing a paid service, and I was like, if I'm going to do that, I'm going to get a real internet service. So that didn't last very long for me. But yeah, no, it was my first my first internet thing, and that was circa 1996. So yeah, it's been a while. Those days were fun. There's something to be said for those days. Wow. Like thinking about the TTRPG things. I'm trying to figure out. I mentioned they Game Masters, and that they had moved out and on their own place. I don't know. That's still, I mean, it's still really the last TTRPG store. There's one that is about 15 miles west of here. And it's so weird because I realize in my head it's not any further. It's probably even closer than that place was. And for some reason it just seems, maybe it's just because these days it's so easy to get everything online and just have it shipped to you, that going to the store and being being stuck with whatever they have available just doesn't seem worth the effort anymore. I never got into Rifts in my high school years. My friends in high school introduced me to the Robotech anime, and I became obsessed. And then I was introduced to the fact that there was the Palladium Robotech RPG. So I went whole hog, and I was running Robotech for us, and I'd spend I would stay over one of their houses because they live close to the high. I went to a regional high school, so we would play D&D all weekend, or we'd switch between D&D and Robotech, and I was running Robotech games. And at some point, I bought when I was in college. I also did some Robotech on the side in addition to, hey, Captain Mymorph, good to see you. Happy Thanksgiving. I did run some Robotech on the side along with second edition, and I realized that the Palladium stuff, it was meant they were all using the same rule sets, because by this point I had bought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles stuff from Palladium. Oh, that's awesome. It felt like it took an hour and a half to create a character in the Robotech RPG. I'm not gonna lie. It felt like that took forever, especially since you had to, especially when you had to also fill out the stuff for your especially if you're doing a Veritech or not. Man, we never ran much stuff that involved people having the Destroids. But it was it was a long process to create your character, which was kind of funny because it was very easy to kill the character. I think playing Robotech in high school with my buddies, I might have killed more characters in Robotech in the span, in the 2 to 3 years that we were playing it seriously, which is saying something because, we might get together for a weekend once every 3 to 4 months, but we would play like all weekend. I think I killed more characters in Robotech over the course of those, 3 years of playing it seriously than I've killed in D&D in 40 years. I'm not, I gotta tell you, Twilight 2000 was the kind of game that if I had found anybody who was interested in playing, I would have played way back when. Now, I'm not quite as much. MechWarrior 3, Pat, are you talking about like the video game? Or I know there's a MechWarrior RPG because the BattleTech, because the BattleTech, there's the TTRPG portion of it. I never got it. I never did get. BattleTech is one of those things where I kind of regret not getting into it back then. I don't know that I could have afforded it back then, to be honest with you. I'm sure we would have had a fantastic time playing BattleTech at the frat house if I had. Hey, Lord Forth, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Yes, you do. Yes, you do have plans. I mentioned, I'd already given thanks regarding Jay and playing BattleTech because I've had a ball playing BattleTech in those games. It's so, it's cool. Warhammer, yeah, Warhammer. I don't know what to make of the whole Warhammer, thing. It's there are times where the Warhammer community just really kind of confuses me because I'm at the point where I can never tell how serious they are. And there's also the whole thing where, people are when you have an entire ecosphere of people making money painting miniatures because certain games have because certain game structures require your miniatures to be painted to a certain standard, your armies be painted to a certain standard, is wild to me. That is just and I know people who have I know people I mean granted I know people have made some good money off of it, making commissions off of it, but what? Just no, no. I don't. I don't need anything. I don't need anything to be that serious. That's too much. Um. So I've got like I said I've got BattleTech. I've enjoyed playing BattleTech / Mech Warrior with Jay. It's cool getting a chance to see how the different mechs work and getting feel. And I like the way the combat happens. It's funny, Mayosi, you say that, and that's I'm not saying you're wrong. It's just it's never felt like that. Like, I mean, granted, some people will do it just so that they don't have to do the painting themselves, but it's never that's never the impression that I've gotten. And you're right; it could be just people just trying to overdo it and wanting to have bragging rights, saying, "Hey, look at my stuff. My stuff looks better than your stuff." So whatever the case may be, it's just. And then there are some people. Then there are just some people in the Warhammer community who's just, and they're not. They're a reminder of the extreme wing of the D&D community. Just please, just go away. You people should not be allowed out in public among among good people because your social skills are completely in the toilet. And actually that's the kind of the feeling that I've always gotten. I it is what it is. I listen, if people are enjoying it, great. I don't want to I if there's that many politics involved in it, I just don't need to be dealing with that. Right, and that's my other problem is there's been too much of the community that has felt very toxic. Despite despite the Warhammer makers coming out and saying that it is for everyone and this and just basically stop being assholes, and people still do it anyway, and whatever. I've gone a long way to just not have to deal with this. I don't have the time and energy to argue with toxic people anymore. I'll just cut them out and ignore the hell out of them, or just leave the area. If it's my space, I'll make sure that they're feeling as uncomfortable as possible. But that's about it. Oh man, oh, that's funny. That's funny. Somebody call the wambulance. Oh, that's fair. That's fair. Um, yeah, no, it's Warhammer was like I said, was something I never got into. Oh well, that also helps. For sure. But yeah, no, like I said, the BattleTech thing is something I wish I had the resources to do back then. But we were all poor college students. We we had enough to buy our D&D books, and then once we bought our D&D books, we had enough money, hopefully, to buy whatever food we were going to eat. Thankfully, while I was in college, we were in Hoboken, so we had all the amazing freaking pizzerias you could possibly want. Some great Chinese food places, some good chicken places. It was a delivery dream. Being able to order food while for our games. So we all, at least we were always had good food while we were there. Ooh. All right. What time is it? Is there anyone else streaming? It occurred to me that I probably should have checked to see who I might be able to raid into tonight. I don't know if anyone's on. Oh, Mike's on. All right. Mike has been on. Mike has been like Iron Man lately. He went from being away for a while to being on constantly. Which is cool. I mean, he was definitely. I know he was dealing with some issues and stuff, but I just hope I just hope he's taking care of himself and doesn't burn himself out. His stuff is cool. He's been posting all kinds of really cool Marvel figures to Instagram. That's awesome. I mean, if you listen, that's awesome for him. I'm happy for him because Mike's a cool dude. I was lucky enough to meet Mike in person. A few years back. So, and I'm glad he's doing better. I'm glad he's getting a chance to do some painting. Painting a grown-up version of the D&D gang from the cartoon series. Ah, nice. I need to do some painting myself. I need to figure out a better setup for my painting thing because I tried doing one half-size table, and I realized that it's not large enough. I thought it would be large enough, but even never mind wanting to stream it, just trying to get myself set up with everything. Yeah, I have to actually try to paint something to start with. I've got my overgourd, which is half painted. I have a beholder that is half painted, though I'm not entirely happy with the color, how it came out. I've got a couple of dragons that I was talking to Darling Creepshow about it. And it's funny, Darling Show was watching her show last night, and I was talking about the fact that I feel like I'm in a paint theory class every time I'm watching one of her streams. Because going through the whole process and this and that, and I feel like I should be taking notes, and I'm completely failing at it. But another wickedly talented. Hey Moose, I'm sorry I missed you. Happy Thanksgiving. I hope you're having a good day. Mr. D's Pizza. If you ordered the right combination of ingredients, you also got a bag of cocaine. Wow. Well, I mean, to be fair, she's worked with a lot of the stuff. So, if nothing else, she knows what has worked for her. And it's weird. If there's anything I've learned is that painters are very attached to the brands of paints that work for them, and it's really interesting when I hear painters talk about the paints they like and they don't like, and I've seen painters equally gifted painters who just really hate certain paints and paint brands that other equally gifted painters love, and vice versa. And it's like, I don't know. It's like, listen, I went and bought Monument Hobbies paints, and I've got all the colors and all the paints that I could possibly want for a while. And so if what I have isn't working for me, well, I'll deal. My paints are never going to be to this level. What I do find really funny though is when I started running a 5e campaign during COVID, for my fraternity brothers and my now ex girlfriend. I was doing it with Zoom, and I had painted miniatures, and we were using miniatures on a one of those Chessex, just square boards, and I would draw up some stuff as far as like terrain and things. No real terrain piece. I didn't have any real terrain pieces, but I have like the monsters. I had all, and that's where my miniatures collection really began. And I painted miniatures for each of them. And I swear to you, they were among the first miniatures I've ever painted. And I still think that they may be among the best miniatures I've ever painted. There are a few others that I painted during that period that came out great. I've got a Minotaur that I painted that I think looks fucking awesome. And somehow I feel like I've lost that ability because I've never been quite as happy with how anything has turned out since. With the exception of a Beholder that I had some help in terms of somebody working with me on talking to me about technique while I was doing it. But beyond that, it was like as far as character miniatures, I've never been as happy as I was when I painted the first grouping, which is kind of sad. That is cool. Asher, something? I should do that. Or stamps or the monster for all the monsters. Whoa, okay. That's oof. I mean, I could probably do that mostly because of the fact that I bought a whole bunch of the pre-painted monster blocks from WizKids. So I've got a portion of my miniatures collection are the pre-painted stuff. But then I've got like all my Reaper stuff. I've got my Blacklist Games Fantasy Series 1. I've got a couple of other things that had come in. Yeah, I feel you, Mayuso. The number of orcs I have to paint is beyond the pale. And the last of my miniatures Kickstarters is scheduled to arrive stateside in the next week or so. The boat left China on Halloween. They were estimating it to arrive around December 1st, which means sometime between Christmas and New Year's, I will get the last 200 something, I think it's like 215 miniatures arriving. Oh, yeah, no, Pat, it is. I need to do something because it's gotten out of hand. I've got both Reaper 5 and Reaper 6 I painted a few of the dragons from Reaper 5, and I started painting the Overgord, and that's about it. I have not touched any of the Reaper 6 stuff. I've painted a few of the pieces from Blacklist Games Fantasy Series 1, which is 205 miniatures right there. I've got I've got a whole bunch of WizKids miniatures, which, silly me, I found out how much of a mistake that was. I've been told, I found out far too late that WizKids miniatures, at least in terms of the player character types, the wizards and fighters and stuff, are among the most difficult miniatures to paint, and there's a reason why you don't see many people doing those. It's because they're a pain in the ass, and I can confirm that they're a pain in the ass. But I've got the two Reaper, like I said, I've got the two Reaper sets that I have yet to paint. Really much of anything from. Okay. What were those? I see some of them are like white backgrounds, some of them are colored backgrounds. I do have, hold on. It's Next Level Miniatures. There was Next Level Miniatures. Then there was Next Level Miniatures, like, Reforged or something, where they did, where they redid them because some people were not happy with the sizing of some of them. They're supposed to be like 28 millimeter, and they did not feel that large. I think that's like Next Level Miniatures. So I've got, I think I've got three sets because I think I did those twice. Well, maybe I just did Next Level Miniatures, and then Next Level Miniatures Reforged. I don't remember. Let me see. So many Kickstarters. Oh yeah, I can mark Castle and Crusades, Codex Infernum, and Exaltum received. Aha. Yep, Dragon's Horde Volume 1. Okay, I think I just did the volume 1 and then the volume 1 when they redid them, because I don't see myself as being, unless they did it under a different one, a different thing as well as Kickstarter. But I don't see myself as a backer on volume 2. Oh, nice. in the mini mall. Let me see. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I at this point it would be very hard for me to justify. And I'm going to be sitting there staring when the next Reaper one comes out, trying to convince myself, no, 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 Rob, you really do not need another Reaper set. And I'll probably end up backing it anyway because, oof. RSV. Yeah, that would have been my guess. I need to get the pneumonia. I need to do those, especially after having had pneumonia, because pneumonia at our age, Asher's, is no joke. That's how I ended up in the hospital, and what it took from Are you the type who feels like hell after getting vaccinated? Listen, Pat, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's I had pneumonia just after my 50th birthday, and it pretty much robbed a couple of years of my life, because between that and then getting COVID, 8 months later, I was a mess. Uh, Ooh, yeah. Wait, that's what I normally do. I've been normally doing the flu and COVID shot together. Um, Usually, I'm okay with that, but the the pneumonia and COVID within 8 months of each other robbed me basically of pretty much 2 years of my life where I was just barely functioning, and it was not good. I did get the shingles one. That one I took care of. My father got shingles, and I want no part of that. I'm like, yeah, they've got a vaccine for that. I'm grabbing that one. Oh, I can't imagine it would be. According to my mother, my father was miserable when he had shingles, so I wanted no part of that one. Okay, so yeah, it was Dragon's Horde Remastered was the secondary one. I'd settle for that. I mean, like I said, I had my COVID vaccines, and my COVID experience was it felt like a minor touch of the flu. I was mostly okay, but it was coming off the back of a experience with pneumonia that completely screwed up my breathing. my body forgot how to breathe while I was walking. I didn't think it was possible, but I'd be walking and I realized that the only thing I can figure is I had to have been having anxiety attacks because I'd be walking and purposely inhaling and exhaling and trying to do it in a measured way as I was walking, so it wasn't like quick inhale, quick exhale where I wasn't really taking anything in. And I'd have to stop because after about 10, 15 steps, I was completely out of breath. And I was fine. I stopped. I would, get my breathing back under control. But it got to the point where walking down a hallway was hell. I'd look at a long hallway and I'd be like, am I going to make it to the end of it? And, it affected my GaryCon one year. The year Founders and Legends, I remember walking down the hallway to my room when it was the year I was at the Grand Geneva, and having to stop and find places where I could stop and just catch my breath and convince myself that I was going to be okay to just keep going. And this lasted for years. So I want no part of pneumonia again. All right. And on that cheerful note, so I do want to mention a couple things. We are off for Friday Night Crusades tomorrow night. We're taking off for the holiday. Again, we have had 26 weeks, so a full half year's worth of Friday Night Crusades, which is fucking amazing to me. So again, thank you so much to my players. You guys are phenomenal. I hope your reaction isn't that bad, Dale. I really do. It sucks when when that feels when the cure or the prevention feels makes you feel terrible. Here's hoping your reaction isn't that bad. December 7th, Sunday, December 7th. It's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern, I think. I have to double check the time. It's either 10 or... Pretty sure it's 10. Yeah, it's got to be 10 a.m. Eastern because Asher has a game at 2 p.m., so we have to get him out of there on time. 10 a.m. Eastern, the Righteous Hands will be returning for the last session of the year. So that is the next big game. Otherwise, I will be here next Thursday as usual. We'll probably do some more campaign building stuff. Maybe work some more on custom classes or something like. Maybe one of the specialty priest groups, and we'll continue going with that. We do have the giveaway, ! Ticket to enter. There's still time. Right now, your odds are good. We've got 4 entries, which is pretty cool for a thrown together stream on a Thursday of Thanksgiving Thursday. But yeah, let's go to a stream ending, and we are going to be raiding into Mike Disney. But before we do, last chance to enter ! Ticket. Otherwise, I will be closing the giveaway in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing the giveaway. And drawing a winner. Dark Horse 1975. Dark Horse, I'm not sure if you're still there. Dark Horse, I see your name's still in the chat list, so that's fine. Dark Horse, if you happen to be listening, if you are on, I'm not sure if you're actually in my Discord, but if you're on Discord in general, do me a favor, send me a message, and so I can get the code out to you. Otherwise, I will send you a message via Twitch. I prefer to do it via Discord just because it's easier for me to keep track of the fact that I've sent out the various codes. But congratulations on the win, and let's get ready to read Mike Disney. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you again. I hope everybody's had a fantastic Thanksgiving. Thank you for hanging out and chatting. We will be rating the Mike Disney in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Get those rating modes ready and see you on the flip side.